Hi, my friends and family, enemies, strangers. I want to have a very serious conversation about a couple of things, and probably it's not gonna be short. So don't tune in if you don't have time. But or if it triggers you too, like we can talk about that, or just take it and sit with that feeling, and then maybe let it go. Actually, definitely let it go. Like, we should not sit in our feelings for too long, because then they can kind of take over. And we are open vessels, so things can come in to us and things can come out of us. They might not even belong to us. We are just literally these porous, walking, talking mushrooms. And different parts of our body too are susceptible to different ideas or energies or whatever you want to call it, diseases. So something can come into your head, something can come into your heart, something can come into your your lower body, or like your sexual zones or your creative fire zones, and attack them, or pollute them, or make them happy. There's a lot of different things, but sometimes things don't even belong to us. And so it's very, very important for us to be in tune with our bodies and with our surroundings, with who we hang out with, what we let in, and when we're able to process these things. Like, sometimes you really need to give your mushroom a break, find a quiet place if that's helpful, and extract some of these things that might be overloading us or taking over. Like I said, if you're stuck in a feeling for too long, it's almost like a snake that comes up through the bottom of your feet and then could potentially eat your brain, and then like start puppeting you. And it's just, we got to let those things out of our heads, and our society doesn't really give us time and space to do that sometimes, and it's also like we're not even trained on, maybe in preschool if you're lucky enough, and that's only for like a year, where we learn to identify our emotions, like if you're happy and clap your hands. And it's also not very acceptable for some of us to be stomping our feet. Some of us might look different. We might come in big scary packages, or like tiny little packages, and then the way that society projects itself onto us or whatever, you might not be able, you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, and so you might scare people like with your emotions, or you might have really big emotions in a little package, or like it's just so hard to navigate when we don't have the tools. So one of the things I want to talk about is, and I'm going through a lot, it's been a really like crazy year for me, in addition to the plague and all the other things. My mother left her body, my grandmother left hers, and that's just like completely chemically life-changing for me, for my mushroom, and then also like spiritually, mentally, there's so many things that have changed for me. And so it's just, I'm feeling able to, I've cried a lot, and I've been able to like shed a lot of skins, and I'm feeling very open and sometimes very sensitive. So one of the things I like to do is tune into the body, and it's crazy because those people were my resources. So it's like, I can no longer call my mother and get a hug from her, or call my grandmother, get a hug from her. I can talk to them, and I can write to them, and I can live in their honor, and I can reach out to people that were like them or that knew them. So that's what's really important to be able to do, to be able to like reach out to people. And if you're being reached out to, we need to know that it's like an emergency. So we need to train each other to say like, hey, this is a life or death situation, and I'm having an emergency. And it's sometimes called a dark night of soul. And I've experienced this where, this is actually while my mother, my main support system, was still here. And I felt all the blood drain from my body. I was completely numb. I I had just written a song too, so you would think that I was feeling really happy, and I just felt nothing. I absolutely felt completely nothing, and I laid on the ground, because sometimes laying on the ground really helps me. Like, the earth just kind of pulls everything out and just is safe, and I don't feel like I'm gonna fall or anything, but it wasn't working. And so that in that time is when other things can come into our heads, or we just really don't feel like going on. We feel like we're already dead. And so that, I've read, is called a dark night of soul. And so if we can share that information with each other, that's kind of, it happens. And I was a crisis call advocate at a homeless shelter for survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, and that happens a lot. And people's souls maybe have floated off, or the mushroom just needs to shut down, but it just completely is like zero. So those times, we can share with each other and normalize it, that it happens to a lot of us, and what to do in that time. And one of the things you can do is call whoever you need to, and if it's a hotline, call them, and they will try to help you through it. And if you hear of this happening to someone, it's no judgment. This is like a human experience. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's like some other sort of medical, physical, or chemical experience that I don't know anything about. But it happens to a lot of people. And if somebody calls you, then one of the things you can do is just go be by them. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to do anything. Just be with them and ask them what you can do. Maybe a hug, like a little battery charge, can help, but it doesn't have to be physical. You don't have to give somebody that physical energy if that's what they need, but you can be there, and pull in as many of your friends as possible, just to like create this network for people, because it can be very heavy to be that only one person, and it's not possible, because it does take a village. So I have other things that I want to say about the dark night of soul, and I just want to offer that Toys, Tinctures, and Tea, and the people that are affiliated, and my friends, and a lot of family I know, if I can't help you, I have friends that can, and maybe even other resources. But let's normalize talking to each other, and letting go of assumptions about anything. And I do it, and I know that I can't. Sometimes, no matter what, like there's nothing I can do to help anyone, so or myself. So it's a long windy road, this journey, and let's shed some light on it, and go to the light, and look for the helpers, as Mr. Rogers says, and let it all out sometimes. Being honest, and then also being forgiving of lots of different things, if we can, of ourselves and others, and try to understand. That's it. So, all right, sending you all love, and there's going to be, I want to talk more about grief and the 7 stages of grief, and also the 4 agreements. So there's a lot going to be talked about as I'm going through grief processes right now, and hoping to just have a great rest of my day, and get through the grief with my friends. All right, ciao.